For the last 5 years, editor Cary Brobeck has led the charge revitalizing the Choppers magazine brand. The magazine, which was founded by Ed Big Daddy Roth in 1967, lay dormant after years of trading hands. In this episode of Do You Even Chopper, we talk to editor Cary Brobeck about his history editing magazines and what drew him to the Choppers magazine brand. Hey, Cary, how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm great. I had worked my day job. That is what most of us do in this industry is have a day job and then come back and work on motorcycle stuff. So
Yeah. Oh, I hear that. I don't know very many people doing a print chopper magazine who don't work a day job. There's a few, but for all the magazines out there, most everyone's probably doing the
yeah.
same slog that we are. And so I really thank you for your time on that. Let's go back to the beginning of Choppers magazine. How did you um, revive the brand? Because I think a lot of people don't know the story, and it's pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
it's not some glamorous story where, the ghost of Ed Roth didn't come to me in a dream and tell me to start it back up. It was it kind of all came from when I was working at Easy Riders. I was trying to buy the brand. Joe Teresi was auctioning it off, and I actually won the auction. I won the auction at $1 million. I didn't have $1 million. I just knew that I wanted to get it and keep it going, and I didn't want to fall into the wrong hands, which, as most people know, it kind of did fall in the wrong hands for a little while. So I put the bid in. I said, "Oh, I'll figure it out after." Won it, and then was told later that he had a $4 million reserve. Never mentioned it beforehand. So I was going to scramble to get a million. There's no there's no way I was going to come up with 4 million. That's for sure. So, um, after talking with Dave Nichols, who was like my mentor and editor in chief there at Easy Riders, and he's still there. Um, we came up with a plan to get some investors and brought some investors in. Got screwed out of the deal by the guy that ended up taking it. I'm not even going to say his name because he doesn't deserve recognition. Um, Back ended a deal with Teresi and then pushed myself and Dave out. And at the same time, I just knew this older guy that was trying to talk me out of buying Easy Riders, and he would just kept pushing on, let's just start our own mag. But he was kind of a goofball and I didn't want to do it. Um, then all that happened, and he came to me and said, "Hey, I'll fund it. I'll fund the magazine. Let's just do it." Um, so we kicked around a bunch of name ideas. I mean, a bunch, and either they were taken or um, they were just goofy, weren't going to work, and it was tough. As the Ton is a pretty cool name, and I'm sure it took you. I'm sure you went through a bunch of names. Well, while doing all my research for that, I had on my desk some of the original Ed Roth Choppers mags, and I was like, man, I wonder what's going on with this. And I looked up the trademarks, and they were all dead. I looked up the social medias, and nobody had it. Um, so I talked to this guy, and I said, hey, I got the name. We're going to bring this mag back. So we secured the name, and after we secured it, I said, okay, I can't do this unless I get the blessing from the Roth family. So I got a hold of one of Ed's sons, Daryl, and told him what we were doing. At first, he was not stoked. He was not stoked. It was just all over the phone. I've never met him face to face. And when I explained what I wanted to do and keep it alive and not, you know, not kind of goof on his dad's, creation, that he was good with it. He didn't want to do anything with it. I offered it back to him. I said, look, we have the trademarks. You can have them all back if you're going to print a
Oh
magazine.
wow, yeah.
And he said, in the end, he said, nope, go for it. And that was kind of last, that's the last I heard from him. So that was it. So it was just right place, right time, did the right research, and just went with it. I knew it's, I mean, I want to say it's big shoes to fill with Ed Roth, but it did change hands a few times. And
Yeah.
I decided early on to just make it my own thing, not try and, you know, not try and copy what he was doing and just move forward and put out what we did. So
Yeah. And that original run only was 67 to early 70, right?
yeah, I went to yeah, to the early 70s, and then it went defunct for a little bit. And then yeah, there's I've heard so many stories that it ended up being Street Chopper. I don't think that's the case. It did, and obviously
Oh.
they did a full size run of mags. I got it, man. I can poke my butt.
Well, both Street Chopper and Chopper were at the same time. You could
Yeah.
date to date them. So
Um, McMullen Publishing uh, did it and did some full size mags and did a few years of it. Then that just died out, and it just sat. It just sat, and nobody, I guess nobody thought about bringing it back, or nobody wanted to bring it back, or it was back then. The publishing business was weird. I kind of caught the tail end of it, working for Easy Riders. A giant office in Agora Hills with a big staff, and
oh yeah.
those days are just gone. You know, um, real quick, I just thought of this, and I missed the video. Um, One of the main reasons I got into publishing is because of Matt and Dean from Dice Magazine. I met those guys early on, and I think it's Dean's birthday. So I want to wish
Yeah.
him a happy birthday and
Happy birthday.
20th anniversary of a magazine. That is no joke, man, to be in this business for that long. And I tell
Yeah.
people all the time that those two guys, man, they're kind of responsible for bringing the chopper scene to what it is kind of today. Um, you know,
Yeah. I mean they've been influential in ways that people just don't even understand. And good to especially small print publishers like themselves. I mean, when our offices burnt down, they were one of the first people to donate and say, "Hey, I hope this helps get you going again." So, um, yeah, and they're on our list for the podcast coming up soon too. So, well, um, Dean is, but
good luck with that one. He's a character, man. I've known that guy long. He's a character.
but yeah, I mean, I think it goes without saying. But I think that helps transition to one thing that I want to talk about is how do you stay afloat as a small publisher? I know we have a really small kind of margin of overhead. It's hard to make profit on the print alone, and you have to kind of do some merch. And our thought process was we're a magazine company first, and then the merch came kind of second. We didn't do merch for 2 years even. Um, and the thought is, I've seen a lot of magazines come and go. How do you kind of keep your longevity going?
Um, we kind of had the same idea at first, which was it's a magazine, not a brand. And then we figured, oh, we're going to print a few hats for Born Free, a few shirts, and it kind of took off. Um, so we definitely sell more hats and t-shirts than we do magazines. Good or bad, it is what it is, right? We self-published like you. We work out of I have a home office, a storage for the magazines and for the merchandise, and we're not paying rent on a building. Everything is pretty much freelance. My copy editor, Crazy Max out of Philadelphia, um, I just pay him per issue. And then Beatnik, who worked a long time um, designer for Easy Riders and Biker Mag and In the Wind, he came with me when we left Easy Riders. He came with me, so he's still doing all our layouts and stuff. And I do some, but he does 90%, 95% of everything. Um, so yeah, but that's how we keep it low. Is there's no employees. I've got Manny, who's kind of like my I just call my general manager because he's the only kind of employee, right? He helps me with all the merch booths, and we just got back from Daytona. Um, So yeah, I mean, that's the only way to keep it going, you know. I have a full-time job. This doesn't pay any of my bills. You know, I'm not buying motorcycles, I'm not buying cars, I'm not buying anything with Shoppers Mag money. It kind of just pays for itself. It might put $1,000 in my pocket every month if I'm lucky. You know, my wife seems to think it's not worth it, but it's hey, it's what I love to do, you know. Takes a lot of time from the family, but it keeps me sane, you
Yeah.
know. Um, I'm a quality manager for a pretty big firm working on really big projects that I'm in a professional setting most of the day. So I get to come home and, you know, work on bikes and work on the magazine and, you know,
Yeah, I
sometimes,
think I mean we've talked a lot about that in the past. Just between the two of us, we're kind of in a similar situation where the magazines keeping a culture that we like kind of within us, and it's a glorified hobby as far as money goes. But at the same time, at least from my experience doing it, it definitely is the thing that keeps me sane and really makes like going to a day job better because I know when it's done, I have this thing to come back to and work on that I'm really excited to do.
yeah, yeah. And it's funny. It's motorcycles. I always tell people opened up more doors for me than anything. Motorcycles in general, you know, getting to know everybody in the industry has been amazing. Uh, Even at work. So, you know, when I've got to do some networking at work, today I went to work in this sweatshirt and we had a big managers meeting and the big boss was like, Harley Davidson, huh? Like, and I was like, oh shit, am I in trouble? Or was he? And then after he asked me, well, you know, oh yeah, I heard you ride and I heard you have a magazine. And you know, it's funny that it's kind of just like motorcycles are universally cool no matter what. And Harleys make it to me even cooler, you know. Um,
Yeah. You covered anything other than a Harley and a Triumph?
we might have had some Hondas. I think I had a Honda early on. I can't remember. And
Yeah.
it's not by design, it's kind of what people submit, right? Like if
Yeah.
I'll run any kind of bike as long as it's cool. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter to me what the make or model is. If it's a cool bike, it's a cool bike and that's it. So, um, it just happens to be mostly Harley.
Yeah. I think that people get intimidated sending something that's not a Harley. I mean, we've run Triumphs too. Um and because people submitted them, but I don't well, we did a Yamaha. That was a pretty good one, but no one seems to send in any kind of choppers other than Harley and sometimes a British one. I wonder why that is. Why people because there's a whole generation of Honda choppers out there from the 70s and 80s, and people restoring them. But at the same time, you don't see people trying to get them into magazines right
Yeah.
now.
I mean, I kind of chalk it up to all the work we do with the motor company. You know, we do, excuse me, we do a lot of chopper shows for them. You know, we do Daytona, we do Sturgis, they sponsor the rodeo. Uh, we did a Born Free Texas chopper show sponsored by Harley. So I'm sure people just get the assumption that we're Harley only magazine, but we are not. So
Yeah. Have you personally ridden anything other than a Harley?
I have my first chopper was a Triumph chopper that actually Dean and myself kind of put together. Um, Neither of us had any idea what we were fucking doing really, but we put together and it was cool. We had and it I still have it. So
Right on.
um, yeah,
So
it's
did you come into choppers a little later? Because I think we both have an experience where we have family members before us who were into choppers. But did you kind of gravitate away from that for a while and then come back to it, or?
for a long while, yeah. So um I come from a family of bikers, right? And I kind of saw the life that it led them to, and I was kind of stayed away for a while, you know. Um, but when it's in you, man. And then once I bought my first bike, it was it was over. Yes, I definitely started, rode when I was younger and then stopped, got married, had a family, and then I was like, man, I need a bike. I need a bike again. So got a bike and I was kind of just rolling around on a stock bike um with some ape hangers. I did take everything off, but it wasn't so this is probably close to almost 20 years ago when I met Dean and Matt and it was actually I think it was the first El Diablo run that I was like, all right, I'm tearing this thing apart. So, you know, that's when it kind of all hit. And then um yeah, never look back. Never look back.
Yeah.
Although
So
some of
what?
I am getting old. I'm 51. I'll be 52 this year. Some of these new Harleys are looking pretty good to me, man. And that's
Yeah,
why I think I'm working too much with them. I don't know, but I'm not opposed. I've said this before in another podcast where, you know, growing up in this like biker family, my stepdad had the same chopper for 40 years. Um, it was kind of like a fuck the factory mentality. And I bought into it, like you got to build a bike and you got to, fuck Harley Davidson, corporate this and corporate that. And I'm saying all that simultaneously wearing a Harley shirt and, maybe a hat or something. And I finally just snapped and I was like, what? This
yeah,
before the magazine. This was before the mag where I was like, what's wrong with you? Why, this is a brand you love. It's an American brand. Why are you acting like that? So um
yeah.
all these years later to be able to work with the motor companies, it's pretty cool. It is it's a challenge to work with them because it is corporate, but they got some good people that we work with.
And they're
That
leaning into their history more. I mean,
Yeah,
even the Icon bike, I think we talked about that online, kind of back and forth a little bit. Which is the kind of bike that would bring someone from the chopper scene to buying a new bike, if they don't want to go down the kind of modern, I guess it's Softail Bro now, not Dyna Bro, but kind of the lowrider S style bike.
yeah, that new ST with the sunburst paint caught my eye in Daytona, and I was like, wow, I started doing math on if I put this much down, my payment's this much, but the math is
Yeah,
really paying for a trailer, so I don't want to have two payments.
yeah. I will say, as someone who has the lowrider S, not the ST, is on the longer rides, it's nice not to have to feel that spine. I mean, I'm 45, so uh, longer chopper rides compared to a longer lowrider S ride, I feel a lot more. I don't take days to recover.
Yeah. Yeah, it is taking me a lot longer to recover from rides, but I still and I wonder if I had a new bike in the garage and I go out, if I'm riding to Sturgis. I've ridden my Panhead to Sturgis four times. Um, and it's done great every time. Minor, hiccups, you fix them on the road and keep going. So I wonder if I got my Panhead and I've got this brand new lowrider or whatever I buy, what am I going to take? I, I would almost bet I'd taken the Panhead. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
it'll be tough for me. But I am getting old, so I don't know. We'll see.
yeah. It's a weird one. It's kind of a luxury though to be able to be like, I have this really cool bike, and then I have this modern really cool bike. Which one do I take? I mean, that's a luxury most people don't have.
Yeah, I thought about because well, even though I have a company truck, I like to commute so on the bike, and I had a FXRT that it was an '86 FXRT that I commuted on for years and years, and I put probably 100,000 miles on it. Started getting really worn. I sold it before I had to dump a bunch of money into it. Um, so then I started commuting on the Panhead, and that's a jockey shift, no front brake, mechanical rear. Lots can go wrong in
Yeah,
Los Angeles traffic, so LA traffic is no joke. So,
and you
and
have to
like an idiot, lane split all the way through everything.
and you have to push all the way through, right? Aren't you going pretty much all the way across LA County?
Yeah, I'm going from foothills to LAX, pretty much every day.
Yeah, that's brutal
Yeah.
on a jockey shift. Mechanical brake, yeah. Um, so let's talk about events a bit, because when you started, I think we were in the similar spot where we were both like, we're doing the magazine, but you've really branched out to, like you said, working with the factory, but also doing your own event, the Virginia City Roundup. How did the kind of idea of like, okay, let's throw in and start doing some of these events come about? And how much of your time are you kind of dividing between planning magazine issues and then planning these events now?
Dividing time, there's never enough time. I don't sleep sometimes. So, and just work on stuff. I've got some great people helping me like Manny and Josh and um with the rodeo. And that came to be because I was about to turn 50 and I said I want to ride a bull before I'm 50. My wife thought I was crazy and I was gonna head to Mark's house, Rusty Butcher's house. I think he's moved now, but when he was in Temecula or somewhere out there, and he was riding bulls out there. And I was like, I'm gonna go. I used to play ice hockey, so I grabbed my ice hockey helmet, started hitting the door, and my wife was like, "You're crazy, like you're selfish. You're gonna get hurt. You got a family." So I didn't go. And then I thought, man, I'm gonna be 50 soon. What am I gonna do? And right around that time I was thinking about that, Josh Sheehan, who used to do Basket Case, had called me and said, "Hey, we're shutting Basket Case down. What can I do for the magazine?" And I said, "Look, I have this stupid idea that I'd been thinking about. I want to do a show and a rodeo. Kind of stems from the Easy Riders Rodeo, except they just do biker games.
Yeah.
And I want to do livestock. I want a rodeo with bulls and horses and all that, and a bike show." And Josh said, you know, "Get me a Choppers Magazine email and I'll make this work." At this point, I know Josh as Dirty Biker as a death trap and was like, "Well, I'll give this guy a shot. Like, what's he gonna do, right?" Man, this guy started sending the most professional email. I was like, he is a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, the most professional emails. Like, really, he's a super intelligent guy, great with branding, great with marketing. And before I knew it, he had the event space lined up and he had the rodeo company set up, and it was just like go, 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 go. And we pulled it off. We pulled off the first one. The first one I think was in October. So it was a little bit cold up there. And yeah, we pulled it off with, I can't remember, 3 months of planning or 4 months of planning, but not that much time. And it's up there. Josh lives up there in the area, so it was easy for him to make moves and get it going. So that's how that came into play. And then, we were doing things like the swap meet and little, of course, Born Free and Mama Tried, and I had all these connections from when I was working for Easy Riders and was going out to events, um, and really didn't have any desire or you know any plan to like do Daytona or Sturgis. I just thought that's not my wheelhouse. I'm not, there's no reason for me to be there. And one day, Jeff Holt from Beats Visionary, he hit me up and he's like, "Hey, I think Daytona was the first one." He's like, "Are you going to Daytona?" And I was like, "Fuck no. What am I gonna do in Daytona?" Um, and he's like, "You might want to think about going." And I said, "Oh, why?" And he said, "Because at the time it was Matt Gardup. He said, Matt's going to give you a call. They're looking for somebody to host a chopper show. I told him you were the guy." We made a deal on the phone and it was done, you know. Um, and so we've been doing as many shows as we can with them since that. And that was 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So we got a really good partnership going. They treat us well. We somehow pull it off every show. Sometimes it's we're a little worried. Like, man, is anybody be? They're not the most ideal locations. Daytona is in a parking lot at the Speedway.
Yeah.
Harley they'll give us what they can, but it's parking lot, right?
Yeah.
So, but we pull it off every year with lots of help from like especially the local guys like JoJo from Giuseppe's Pizza. of course, Danger Dan, who is my MC. Um, and shout out to Danger Dan and his podcast and his shop tees. Um, give him a look him up. He does a great job as an MC. Keeps it fun. Um, keeps it stinky.
Yeah. um, are those good drivers for the magazine? And like, do you see an uptick in sales after those events, or is it kind of doing it just to spread the kind of community aspect of it?
Man, it varies. It does vary. Like we did we were lucky enough to do the 120th show, so we were set up at the museum with only a couple other outside vendors, and we sold out of magazines on the first day, I think, because we didn't think that that's a much, not too many people still want a hand printed magazine, right? Like especially younger people, I should say. The Harley crowd is still a much older crowd. So yeah, we do sell a lot more magazines. And it does expose us to a lot of new customers,
Yeah.
just at the show in Daytona, we're set up right next to the Harley, the whole setup, their whole foot, we're in their footprint right next to where all their new bikes are, and everybody goes to see new bikes. So right next to them, so we get, and I'm assuming this is by design. They get the chopper guys that roll in to kind of go over there, like I did, and saw the ST and was like, "Oh, this is cool."
Yeah.
And then vice versa, you get some of these people that never really seen a chopper except for maybe on TV, Orange County choppers or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they walk over and they're just like, they see a knucklehead and a panhead, with a you know 30 over front end or whatever, just a cool little bob or something, and it blows their mind. And they'll come over and they'll buy a hat and a t-shirt and a mag, and you know um so it's kind of neat. It's a good cross kind of um pollination of potential customers for both
Yeah.
sides.
Yeah. For sure. Uh, you mentioned Orange County Topper, and I'm not ragging on anyone's style or anything, but when people pitch to you, um, and I'll just say it from my perspective, when people pitch to me, it's hard to say no to someone who put that much time and love into a bike. But when someone pitches to you something that's just not the style that you're into, or a style that you don't necessarily think will help your sales, although I don't pick by sales. How do you kind of go about saying no in a nice way? Because I find it really hard. I just don't want to insult anyone on their bike when I say it's just not for me.
Yeah, I definitely am nice. I'm not a jerk about it. I'll say, "Hey, this bike doesn't fit really our magazine," and I'll send them to Easy Riders, or if it's really bad, I'll say, "I think Dice Magazine will run this." Sorry. Hey, so Tim, if you start getting people down, I'm gonna start saying, this looks like a bike the ton will run. No, just I'm with you. Somebody put a lot of work in this bike, and it would be just a total dick move to shit on it and say this is a horrible bike. We will never run it. So just it's a delicate situation where hey, it's not for us. Um, try these other people. They may be into it.
Yeah.
So
How many of your bikes in an issue do you think come from submissions, and how many are ones that you either saw or knew the person ahead of time and sought out?
it's mostly submissions, a big part. A lot of them are friends of photographers. So I'll get a some of my photographers they'll say like, "What about this bike?" And
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
most of those are a yes because they know what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Every now and then I'm just like, some of the and I love crusty bikes. I ride my bikes all crusty. So we run some, but you can't just have a whole magazine of like
Yeah.
fully covered shitty bikes. So even though
Yeah.
they're cool looking, so some stuff gets shelved, and it is what it is, man. It's like, it's like the cover. Yeah, I don't know how you pick your cover, but I tell people um the best bike in the issue is not always on the cover.
No.
The best photo of all the photos you have, ends up as the cover. Your
Mm.
last cover was killer, man. That like,
Oh
the
yeah.
shadow, like, um, and sometimes some photographers will shoot and they'll be like, we really want to cover, we really want to cover. And I say, well, I'm not promising you, and all the photos will be amazing, but none of them just work. None of them fit. And
Yeah.
I'll try. I usually do 3 covers, and between myself and Beatnik and Max, and then showing a few friends, we pick the cover. Um,
Yeah.
as
We kind of
unless
have the same process.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
But we do a center spread too. So it's like what gets the cover and what gets the center spread is the kind of poster pullout.
yeah,
That's the debate for us is, sometimes the cover will be like the most striking photo, but it wouldn't have made a good center spread pullout and vice versa, right? So
right, right.
yeah. How did you find your freelancers? I know we have some overlap, um, but at the same time we have totally different people.
Most of them, well, most of them come to me. Um, and then I still work with a few close friends like Ben Zales. I just brought him out of retirement to shoot some bikes at Chopper Fest.
Oh,
He
right
kind
on.
of he kind of retired. He's an amazing photographer. Um, but other guys like Jeremiah, I know he's got some stuff in your mag, and it's just seeing guys out there, being out there, meeting people. I've got one feature from Michael Lichter, which I'm excited. I've known Michael a long time, and it's tough to nail him down. Um, he's a little bit pricey, but
Yeah.
you're getting what you're getting. I don't know, 40 years experience with that. So
Yeah.
uh, yeah,
He's kind of the master of the
yes,
just keep the everything flat and clear so you could see it. I mean, it's a
he's got
art.
it down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he has
a
it
lot
down.
of newer photographers send stuff in, and I'm like, hey man, these are great, but you know, um, the bike has too many shadows. You can't see it. You can only fix so much in post, and
Yeah.
we try and do not too much on our end. If the photographer we like to keep the editing down to a minimum. We don't want it
Yeah.
looking looking
Well,
fake.
and
You
then
know,
you're stepping on a someone's art too.
yeah. So um, yeah, I've had it. I had a guy um, shoot an event for us, and the event wasn't that big, but every photo he took, it made the event look like there was nobody there. Great
Oh
photo.
shit. Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, like, you know, the crowd, the numbers were down, but there was people there. So I was like, I
Yeah.
can't, man, like, sorry. So, it's just things that these younger photographers have to learn. They have to learn how to shoot. I always tell them all 4 sides of the bike, riding shots if the bike is fire. If it's a show bike and they're not firing it, I get it. But if it's running, which most we like to feature running bikes mostly,
Yeah.
unless it's a show bike. Um, yeah, some riding shots, detail shots, portraits of the builder, that
Yeah.
type of stuff. So, and then we just slap it together. It's
uh
not, it's not
you're on
rocket
a
science, right? Like
yeah,
we're
no shit.
we are a purposely kind of traditional magazine where we're not like Dice magazine is an amazing magazine, but it's like it's art.
Yeah.
All the layouts they do is art. Like that stuff um is we can do it. I can have somebody do it, and I just I'm that's his thing. I'm old, so I come from Easy Riders, In the Wind, Biker Mag, where it was just photos and text, and we just try and work with that.
Were
You
those
know,
your main inspirations? What other magazines do you draw from?
uh, Surfer's Journal
Oh yeah.
one, but yeah, mostly it was those mags. I've got some Japanese magazines also. Um, I used to do a lot of work with Hot Bike Japan,
Mm.
and now of course with Roller and Ripper. coming around. I like their use of white space that
Yeah,
they very clean. Um, to me, though, it leaves a lot of empty space that you could have a photo in. So it's great. It's just kind of not what we do. I'm not trying to
yeah,
copy.
yeah.
Um, we had on our this last issue, this one here. This is Tommy Boy's bike, and he did the layout. He did everything. When I told him I'd run his bike, he's like, "Can I do the layouts?" I was like, "Sure."
Wow.
And he came up with this, and he's like, "I want to do an all white issue, white and pink." Built well even, did a pink ad for us in the back, and it worked. I've had more compliments on this cover than any other cover.
It's the most striking one that you've done, I think.
Yeah,
The first four or five kind of had a template to it almost.
yeah,
And then after that you started experimenting, and this one is like, it's striking. Like,
yeah,
if you saw that on a magazine shelf, which I assume you're not doing
no,
distribution like that, but if you saw it on a shop shelf, you'd be like, "Oh, what's this magazine? That's crazy." Because you're not filling the space with a bunch of crap.
right. Yeah, people loved it. So, well, we'll change it up next issue. I don't have a cover for the next one yet, so we're still working on it. But you never know. Everyone always gets stoked, of course, when they get the cover. So,
Yeah. Are you still quarterly?
yes, yeah, we'll do 4 issues a year. I tried to put out 6 last year, and it was, working a full-time job, and all the events we were doing really cut into stuff. And then
Yeah.
a lot of people don't, I'm a dad, and I just sent one kid off to college, and I still have one here, and he's in the Boy Scouts, so we're
Yeah.
doing that stuff, and
Congratulations on that. That's um the the achievement he's done in Boy Scouts is
oh yeah, Eagle Scout, the oldest boy's
great.
an Eagle Scout, and then he is at UCSD pre-med, so I'm doing something right.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
congrats. I
and
mean,
my wife is doing all that stuff. I'm just riding motorcycles and showing up.
well, we talked about influences a little bit, and we talked about younger photographers, and one of the things I think about a lot is how magazines have changed, and for motorcycle magazines. And so you went from the kind of 70s Easy Riders, street chopper that were definitely aimed toward the biker, and into the 80s where you started seeing more of the tech spec heavy bike magazines come out. And then I think with Dice and a few others, kind of more taking cues from skate magazines like Big Brother or something like that,
Mhm.
or from the zine world. um, how has like that kind of evolution influenced or informed how you're approaching doing choppers? Because your magazine kind of, in my view of looking at it, and I think I have all of them, I think so. My office burnt down, so I lost some of them and had to reorder. But it is kind of in between the old world and not really go into the kind of skate influence photography or anything like that, but it doesn't have the same kind of, it's about the bike more and not necessarily about the culture as much. Is that a fair kind of assessment of it, or is that just reading too much into it?
No, I think we try and do a little. It varies. Like I don't have a formula, right? So when I worked at Paisano, each magazine had a formula. They knew, but this page to this page was going to be a bike feature, and then this was going to be a shop feature, and this was going to
Oh,
be, an event and another bike feature, and then so we're kind of just like put stuff whatever comes to us. So it is mostly about the bikes. And the events. Uh, a lot of times, I think early on we were doing a little bit more about the builder stuff, but we let the guy who built the bike write the story. So if he goes into a whole tangent of his shop and everything, we run it.
oh, okay.
So it can really be about whatever they want it to be. Um, so I like that better than, it has a, you know, 21 front, 19 rear, this
Yeah.
kind of tank, blah, 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 the kind of sometimes that's what we get, and that's just what we run. And Max, my copy editor, is good about calling them up and saying, well, where'd you get this part? Or I love it when someone says, yeah, I got this gas tank, this Wassel tank from this biker dude down the street, and they leave it at that. So Max will call him and he'll say, "Tell me about this biker guy," and then
Yeah.
he'll do a couple sentences on he met this biker guy, kind of like that clip that's on the internet. I had a beer with the old biker man down the road, and he let me touch his old lady's titty. You know, we'll put that stuff in there. I know, I've had a lot of people ask me including Max, like, let's stir it up a little bit. Like, let's talk some shit. Or, I've had people say, why don't you have nudity in there? And I
Yeah.
don't, the nudity thing comes from a few things. Number one, you don't need it in a magazine anymore. To
Yeah.
me, you could,
I'm with you.
right? You have this. You want to see naked chick? There you go. You just
Yeah.
open your phone. Um, Plus, I still have kids, right? And I want to be something that my kid is proud of. Like my kid wears a Choppers Mag shirt to school almost every day. So, or
Yeah.
it's either or a Harley shirt or a Chopper. And I don't want him. I got in trouble when I was a kid for taking an Easy Riders mag to school.
Same
So,
here.
and they're showing all the guys, the titties and got myself into trouble. So it's just something, man, that it's just not who I am. I'm a husband,
Yeah.
I'm a father, I'm a fairly mostly law-abiding citizen that, just has a chopper addiction. So I try and keep it clean that way. Um, but if like I said, there's no formula really to our magazine. So you might get an issue of, you know, 6 events or 4, shop features and less bike features. It just depends on what we get.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with all that. I mean, I also think that if someone wants boobs in a motorcycle magazine, you have 40 years of Easy Riders that you could buy for $2 a piece, or
yeah,
you can make your own magazine. But I just, my point of view is that I want everyone to feel like they could be part of the magazine and be in the magazine. And that includes people of all different kinds of backgrounds, no kind of like political ideology that I favor or anything. Um, and just be inclusive of everyone. And I think if I ran a magazine with like nudity for the sake of nudity and it had nothing to do with the story or what's going on in it, I'd be disenfranchising a whole ton of people that I've already had in our magazine. I think we've, at least from my skew of it, I think we've probably ran regularly more female builders than a magazine in the last 5 or 6 years. So I think
yeah,
I mean, it'd be a weird thing for us. And it's good to hear that other people are starting to think about it and what it means to them personally, because I think a magazine is a personal expression of the people making it at the end of the day.
yeah, of course, absolutely. Um, And like when I have people tell me, "Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that?" I just say, "Why don't you just make your own? That's great. You should make that magazine."
Yeah.
I tell them to go ahead and do it. So,
Or
yeah,
you'd make more money if you did
yeah.
X, Y, and Z. Like,
There's no money in this.
yeah.
Like they,
You'd make more money if you did baggers. Like, oh, you cool, start a bagger magazine.
yeah,
See how much money you'll make on it. Like, it's everything you do in the motorcycle world. If you have a specialty view, whether it's baggers or choppers, at least in my view, you're the niche of a niche. Like, unless you do a catch-all and you have that kind of catch-all advertising behind you, there's no way to make a substantial amount of money.
no. And I'm really pigeonholed with the fucking name Choppers Magazine, right? Like I can't just put a bagger in this. It just people be like, what is going on? Like,
Yeah, I think that goes back to the whole name choice thing. I mean, it's the hardest thing, top end, oh, it's taken. Side out, oh, it's taken. Like, you
yeah,
can kind of just go, but you've had 2 magazines that had good names. You had Wrench, and
yeah.
you've
So
had Choppers, right?
Wrench, I hated that name. Wrench. So that was a Paisano magazine, and that came about because when I started with Easy Riders, they were kind of in a rut, and I got the job. Um, I was working with my buddy Jason Wilson from Sacred Steel. He did a biker build off show, and Dave Nichols was the judge. Well, the whole show we just like punched each other in the dick and told fart jokes. Like we didn't take it. We built. I mean, I helped, but not a lot. But we built an amazing knucklehead. Won the show. Went out for margaritas with Dave after, and I got a little tipsy. And then I started telling him how I grew up on Easy Riders. I got kicked out of school because of Easy Riders. First time I masturbated was the Easy Rider. And I was like, and what happened? Your bag sucks now. And I went off and I was just like, it sucked. Well, he said, all right, well, come help me make it better. And I said, yeah, 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 sure. Okay. And the next day he called me and he's like, come on, come down. I want to talk to you. So go down to the office. He offered me a job. Um, kind of, not a full-time job. They couldn't afford me. So I just took it on as as a side project, and
Yeah.
we go down there once a week, once every 2 weeks. And um, anyways, I started there, and I started bringing in our culture. And had a lot of choppers, and Teresi didn't like it. Now it's probably now that I could think back, it was his advertisers had nothing to do with a bike like that, right?
Yeah.
That I remember he always had like that stupid. It's an exhaust like that looks like a turret gun or something like, and they even
Yeah.
advertise in wrench. So anyways, I started putting too many choppers, and either they got complaints or he's like, "There's too many old bikes. Let's just start a magazine, a different magazine." So we again kicked the names, and they had a whole legal team like researching names and
Oh,
stuff.
wow.
And Teresi came up with the name Wrench, and I hated it. I mean, it ended up being whatever. And then the logo they did, it was just like, man, they were so dated there that I remember the first guy. Everyone was so nice, but they were just old. They'd been there forever. Like he literally came with a logo that had like barbed wire and flames and
Oh,
like
shit.
skulls. And I
Yeah.
was like, that's every biker cliche in one logo.
One
Like,
logo.
sweet. And I was like, no. So we settled on the logo that they did, which had like a wrench coming down. It wasn't too bad, but um yeah, that was I was the editor of that magazine, and it was great. It kind of gave me the push I needed. I mean, it gave me the experience I needed to even think about doing my own magazine. So
Yeah. And now you've been doing it for 5 years, right?
yeah,
That's a milestone, right?
yeah, Choppers Mag is 4 years old, I think. But yeah, so I think I started in the publishing business with Easy Riders 12 years ago or so, somewhere around there. It's been a long time. Um,
Yeah.
and
Are
yeah,
you are you still talking to Dave now
yeah,
and following all the changes that's going on there?
yeah. So I'm sure they're going to announce it soon. We'll maybe have a spoiler here that's changing hands again. I'll say his name now because fuck him. Pepper Foster, the guy that bought it and ruined it, um, is out. He couldn't pay, uh, and it sat. I'm sorry, it didn't sit. Teresi got it back and then licensed it out to another guy that Dave was working with. Um, and then I guess they were just having troubles selling. So now they got a couple new owners. I met them at Chopper Fest.
Oh, cool.
These are like real biker dudes. Um,
And they're out of Boise, right? Is that
I think so, somewhere around
yeah.
there, yeah. Um, but these guys are bikers, so it's hard for somebody, even Dave Nichols, who's not really on a motorcycle anymore and hasn't been for a while, the best at putting a magazine together, but it's kind of hard when you're not out there, right? Like if you're not
Yeah.
if you're not on a bike or you're not going to the shows and you're not there, like I don't know how you keep doing it, but he's doing it.
Yeah.
And they're coming back, and it's Easy Riders who, yeah. So I've had people, even when the other guy took it over, call me and go like, man, Easy Riders wants to put my bike in the mag, but you're my friend. And I'm like, man, the bottom line is still Easy Riders.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's so iconic that why wouldn't you want your bike in there?
Yeah.
So
I mean, it has. I mean, magazine industry has its hiccups, and you had your early hiccups. How did that kind of affect those early issues and the ability to get them out?
oof, I went through some lawsuits. So that I can't really go too much detail into. One was with Teresi, and one was with my partner that I got rid of. I had to buy him out, and that got pretty ugly real quick. So it took me a lot of money to buy him out, and
Mm,
it was the best thing I did. Yeah,
yeah,
best thing I did. I wouldn't be doing it right now if he was still involved at all. So
but that caused that big gap
yeah,
between like issue 2 and 3. So
yeah, there
somewhere around
was
there.
there were some big gaps. I wasn't sure if I was even going to keep doing it. Um, One thing that kind of kept me going was we took on subscribers, and I was like, man, I know the backstory of what happened with show class, and I didn't want that hanging over my head,
Oh yeah,
and I didn't whether you reimburse people or not. I mean, I would have, but I just didn't. I just wanted to fulfill, you know, what I promised people. So
yeah.
yeah.
Would you have, if things changed or came out different, would you just figured out a new name and kept going?
Most likely, yeah, I probably would have just
Yeah,
walked away
yeah,
from it because this guy wouldn't have been able to do this mag. He would have been dead in the water. So,
yeah. It is what it is.
yeah.
Well, what do you have? Do you have any big plans for this year? What do you have? Do you have anything that people who don't follow you on Instagram at Choppers Magazine? I have to say the whole thing. We shorten our name, but Choppers Magazine.
Yeah.
Don't already know that it might be a spoiler.
Not, I mean, we've done our Daytona. We just got back from Daytona a couple days ago. Um, and now we've got a little bit of a break. Unfortunately, because of work, I can't go to Bisbee. I'm really bummed out. I mean, it's upside down, but I got my Bisbee tattoo last time I was there, and I'm really sad. Anyone that's if this is coming out 2 weeks later, Bisbee already happened. He went to
Yeah.
Bisbee. It was awesome. I'm sure you had a great time. I'm sad. Sorry, I missed you guys. I need to take a little bit of break, focus on the family as far as traveling goes. We, of course, are gearing up for Virginia City Rodeo. Josh left the show last year. He's back again with the Dirty Biker Showcase Corral. He's actually taking on all the invited builders, and that list is
Oh
insane.
wow. Yeah, that's an
It's
insane list.
and it's a load off of me. Um, and he's great at doing that. You know, I kind of suck at wrangling these bike builders. So I'm glad he's back. Um, so that's August. We have we'll be in Deadwood again for a show with Harley. And that's pretty much
Are you doing Italy again? I mean, maybe talk
well.
about that for a second, how that came about.
So we just got back from Italy. We were there in January. Um, the Motorbike Expo is a huge show, um, bigger than Born Free, which is pretty amazing. It's in all these like huge hangars. I think there's 8 or 9 of them, and everyone is like 3 of them are all custom bikes, and they've got all the parts and stuff, and the builders and the vintage clothing stores and helmets and stuff that go with it. There's 3 big buildings of that, and the rest is like industry people. Harley has a big thing there, but not only that, you've got race bikes, you've got sport
Yeah.
bikes, it's all things 2 wheels. Um, it's huge. So how did I get invited there? In Thailand. I got invited to Thailand a couple years ago, and the guys next to me were from Motorbike Expo.
Oh wow.
And they said, "Hey, you should come to our show." So they gave us some support to go out there. And the first year was great. We just got back. It was January. This year they gave us we did a whole chopper show.
Oh
Um,
wow.
and it was really cool. And they actually just came to Daytona. One of the organizers came down and they want to do it again next year. And it's in January. They have another one in September that we're on the fence of going. We'll see how that goes. That one's in Rome. So fun shows to be at. Trying to expand the brand over there. It's a little tough because shipping costs
Oh yeah.
and
And also shipping to Italy is a nightmare. I mean,
so
I lived in Italy for a while, and getting mail, their postal system is not very good. So
Oh, haven't heard that, but yeah. So, we'll eventually get set up with distributors over there or whatever. So, if we keep going back, I love it there. I was ready to move there in a second.
oh
I was
yeah.
like, oh man, this is great. Um, but yeah, so that's how we met him in Thailand at a bike show, and we got invited. We got invited to go, so it all worked out. So we may make some moves and try and go to Yokohama this year. So that'll be the big surprise if we make that.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm gonna go to attend, but everything costs money as far as booths. So
yeah.
I can understand that. So well, I
Well,
appreciate I what?
I said come to Virginia City and we won't charge you for a booth. You can have a free.
Yeah, I have a funny story about that. I've wanted to go each time. The first time I think we were planning to go, and it was on my wife's birthday, and she was like a week or two out, like, I just really don't want to spend my birthday in Virginia City. The ghosts are a little too gnarly for me, and it's a little too boring if I don't want to go look at the bikes all day. And I said, well, it's your birthday. I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah, you're
And
stuck with
then
that one.
and then the next year, Buddy and I were gonna ride down and go down, and the day before I got COVID.
Ah,
So,
we're tapering off. We're gonna do a couple local things. We are gonna do we're gonna do like a bike night at Cook's Corner with Orange County Harley Davidson. They asked us to go set up. So we won't sell anything. We'll just kind of go and give out all the
yeah,
magazines that we can't sell that's got little blemishes. We'll just give them all away and
yeah.
hang out, eat spaghetti. You know.
But you're like the only chopper magazine in Southern California left, right? Everyone else is either gone or moved.
Yeah. So Dean is now on the East Coast and Psychosource is East Coast. You're
Mm-hmm.
north,
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
There's a
Yeah.
bunch. There's a bunch popping up in like Texas and
Yeah. And I think
Midwest.
it's
It looks
great.
like.
I have no problems helping anyone that wants to start a magazine and wants
Oh
some.
yeah, exactly.
I think it's great, man. There's enough photographers, there's enough bikes, there's enough to go. Well, maybe not advertisers. That one's tough. You know how it is finding
That one's
advertisers.
tough. Yeah, that one's
But
tough.
there's enough people that will buy your magazine anyways. If they're buying a Choppers mag, they're gonna buy a Ton mag, they're gonna buy a Dice mag, they're gonna buy whatever your mag is called. So
Yeah. And we all seem to magically kind of have our new issue out at different times. Like we're all on a quarterly schedule. Well, I think Dice is bi-monthly now, but I think they do 6 a year. But like we all kind of, it's been very rare that I've seen us come out like in the same week or two at the same time.
if we do, we should plan like a release party together somewhere.
Well, last time we tried to plan a party together, COVID happened and it didn't happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, anyway, I always like talking to you. I appreciate you being the first guinea pig for this podcast idea. See where it goes. Trying to spread the love with print journalism so people understand kind of what we are all facing. And I thank you for your time as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's an honor to be the first or second or third, whatever you end up posting this one. But um, yeah, good talking to you, and we'll hope to see you in Virginia City. It's the last weekend of August, I think. I should probably know the dates, but I
I
don't.
think 24th of August or something this year.
Unless you have an ad in here somewhere. Yeah, yep, 23rd, 24th.
Do You Even Chopper podcast is a product of the Ton Magazine. You can find us on Instagram at the Ton Mag. Same on Facebook. Our URL for our website where you can find our magazine, merch, and much more is thetonmag.com.